Hi, I'm here again. Still have my vaporizer going. I run this thing at least a couple times a day. It really steams up the windows, making the doors hard to open because they're swelling from all the humidity in the air. I still put salt in it a couple times a day, a couple teaspoons of either kosher salt or just table salt or sea salt if I have it, the Himalayan sea salt if I have it. I also thought I should talk about this thing. I'll cover up that name because it doesn't really matter. This is a little sprayer, can't even see it on there, that I've had for over 22 years. It was an antihistamine, once a day antihistamine sprayer. I filled it 22 years ago after using it after an allergy or cold type thing. It really opened up the sinuses with just a couple sprays a day. But I refilled it with salt water because of an article that I'd read. And I just used tap water and salt in it. But I had read a report. I'm going to get off the floor here. I read a report by some ENTs that had started a company, whole corporation. They invested about $3 million of their own money into a hypertonic saline sprayer. Now, all that means is more salt than the body has in it. That's all that means, hypertonic. And they said this thing would clear up allergies, it would kill viruses, it would kill bacteria, and all you had to do is spray it in your nose a couple times a day. They went bankrupt because people wouldn't use it. Nobody liked their sprayer because it's uncomfortable. If you spray it up your nose like that, you can feel it. I don't think it's bad. Sometimes I have more salt in it and it gets my attention. But I recommend doing it. I think it's a good idea. Like I say, I've had this thing for 22 years. I usually keep it in my car. Lately, I've been keeping it in the house because I'm not driving my car very much. And I spray it a couple times a day. I won't go into that. There was a period where it wasn't working for me, and I think that was because of mold. When I was living in Northern California. But I got to show you this other thing for killing viruses and bacteria and mold also in the house. This little unit right here, this is an ozonator or an ozone machine. You can buy them off of Amazon. They're available all over the place, anywhere. They're kind of pricey, anywhere from $80 to $400. That one is my brother's, and he's had it for years. He doesn't think it works well, but I just turned it on. It seems to be working fairly well. And I would recommend getting those. If you live in a moist, humid type climate, like Northern California, where I lived up in Humboldt County, I would imagine Hawaii, anywhere that there's a known black mold problem, which I know is all over, but humid areas where it rains a lot, it's really a problem. I would get one of those things. There's also a treatment for mold that I'll maybe go into someday on here. It was actually originated here in Utah, and they have a proprietary blend of vinegar and something else that they pump into the walls in a mist that kills mold. It costs a couple $1,000s to have it done and isn't very destructive to the house. And I'll try to get a hold of them and post something on them as well because they're a good company. And from what I understand, this stuff really works, really kills mold in your house. I wanted to talk a little bit more about this coronavirus thing because I am really troubled by some things that I see happening that to me say this is a scam, this is a farce, there's something else going on here. Now that doesn't mean that hundreds of thousands of people aren't going to die or even millions. They may have that figured out, a way to do that and control it. But here's what troubles me. I drove up to Bear Lake, Utah, here the other day. This is a little community. They say it's 6,000 people. I find that pretty hard to believe. I would guess more like 1,000 people. There's almost nothing there. A few restaurants. It's a touristy area in the summer months, but other than that, there aren't too many people hanging out there. It's just too cold. Beautiful lake up in the mountains. If you get a chance to go up there, it's a fantastic place to visit. But Bear Lake, Utah, is shut down just as much as New York or San Francisco or LA or any of these areas where corona is in higher numbers. They've shut down Bear Lake also. under direction of the governor, and I'm sure he's receiving his direction from somewhere as well. That just doesn't make any sense. They've shut down Liloy, Zamboanga del Norte, in the Philippines. This is a village basically where people live in, well, I don't want to diminish it because I love it there, but they live a much more relaxed lifestyle, we'll say. Tin roofs, usually no windows on the house. They do have louvers. Those are either wood or glass in the nicer homes, but no real windows on the homes that can be shut. And most of the people don't have air conditioning. And they've shut down Zamboanga del Norte. They've shut down everything in the entire world with this. Everybody is basically restricted here. That doesn't make sense. If it was in the areas where they had higher populations of the disease, that would make sense to me. But they're doing it everywhere. They now have stimulus packages, trillions of dollars, the largest stimulus package ever in the world. And they're buying out huge companies. I don't know how many people know this, but there's over 1,600 CEOs of multinational corporations stepped down last year in 2019. 1,600. We're talking Bill Gates. We're talking Nike. All these giant Boeing, these enormous corporations. Their CEOs all stepped down. Why is that? Why did all those CEOs step down in 2019? And a huge majority of them stepped down in October. I'm just, something fishy is going on, and I just think we need to think differently. I have a lot that I want to say, and I'm holding back because I know that I'm on the outside. I'm an outlier. I'm a conspiracy theorist to the max. I admit that. I have spent many hours studying these bizarre conspiracy theories, everything that you can imagine. I suppose I've spent some time on. That doesn't mean that I know anything. I don't. I just have become a very suspicious person because of the things that I've seen. And this one is really suspicious. We saw on TV where the Cuomo, was it? I guess is he the governor or the mayor of New York? I don't even know. I don't follow politics. But he's on there complaining about not getting enough ventilators. Who the heck is the mayor? Who the heck is the mayor or the governor to complain about not getting ventilators? What is going on here? It just doesn't make any sense that they're doing this. It's like they've got this thing of heightening the fear. You need to be afraid because we can't save your loved ones, because we can't take care of you, and we need to be against Trump. And I'm not saying I'm for Trump. When Trump, one of the first things he did when he was in office was sign away money to NASA. I'm sorry, NASA is a lying, thieving organization, and I think everybody that's studied them knows that now. We didn't go to the moon. We never went to the moon. It doesn't even make any sense. We'll have a discussion on that someday, I hope, if they don't shut me down. But something is very fishy with this. Somebody posted a video of a guy in a bed in New York City. He's in a bed. He's got his hospital gown on. You can see the hospital bed around him and a few things on the wall. And he's talking about his experience with corona. And he says, my lungs felt like glass. Man, it was unbelievable. That's the only way I can describe it is my lungs felt like glass. And the nurses made me get up and walk. I had to go for my walks. And it was the hardest thing to do. It was so hard. And I thought I was going to throw up, he says. And he says, but I made it through. And I told those nurses, I said, don't let me stop. If I tell you I want to go back, don't you let me stop. Well, I just want to tell you, I was in medicine for 35 years. That's BS. That is total BS. First of all, you don't feel your lungs. And what does it mean to say they felt like glass? That doesn't mean anything. And to say that he had to get up and go for his walks, well, that's the one thing that can kill you if you've got pneumonia, is exercising. The problem with pneumonia is that it makes the lungs sticky and thick with secretions, and they stop transferring gases. So the lungs not only take in oxygen, but they also take out CO2. And when you're walking, your body is increasing its CO2. That's the byproduct of cellular metabolism. He's saying that they made him get up and walk. You don't do that with pneumonia. You lie in bed and you relax. You just let your body heal. And yes, that can take time. Pneumonia can be very damaging. I'm not saying it can't. What's wrong with this is the scenario, is that it just isn't what you do with a pneumonia patient. You don't make him get up and walk. Unless he's a lazy butt and he's just lying in bed and you need to get him out of the hospital. Then you make him walk. But it's just, something is very wrong with this. And the ventilators, they're talking about ventilators for SARS, for this acute respiratory pneumonia infection, which basically what we used to call, I think it's the same thing as ARDS, adult respiratory distress syndrome. And you need specialized ventilators to even, once you get to a certain point, you need a specialized ventilator. You need a ventilator that's called a jet ventilator, an oscillating ventilator. You can't just use a regular ventilator. And no, they don't have thousands of these in every city. That's just never going to happen. And once you're at that point, you're so far gone. Even going on a ventilator with pneumonia is really pushing the edge of life. Your body starts to shut down. The reason you go on the ventilator is because you're not able to exchange those gases. So on a ventilator, they can increase the oxygen content that is going into your body. They can increase the rate of the ventilator, which blows off more CO2. They can increase the volumes and the pressures. There's a lot that a ventilator does to help you live through a bad situation. But it's also a very, very bad position to be in, because your chances of living through it start to shrink down to very little. Your body starts to shut down and you go into total organ failure. Anyway, I'm rambling on about medical stuff that isn't cut and dry in any situation. What really bothers me about this whole situation is they've shut down everywhere and everything. Here, I'm living in Cache Valley. I don't think there's anybody with this coronavirus, if it even exists. And yes, I don't think it exists, but it might. Anyway, they've shut down Cache Valley. It's just not here. It doesn't make sense. They don't shut down the valley for the common influenza that goes every year, or from community-acquired pneumonia, which is very common, or Haemophilus influenza. They don't shut it down for that. They don't shut it down for anything. But now with the coronavirus, they've shut down the entire world. They've shut down everybody. And now I don't know who's doing it, the Fed, the Federal Reserve or the International Monetary Fund or one of these, they're buying up everything. This is worse than the crash in, 2008, when we had the big financial crash. They're going to own the world. They're going to own you. I think my computer's ready to shut off here because I've got too many videos on it. I guess I'll have to upload some of these to YouTube or something. Anyway, folks, I'm not going to stop talking. I'm just ticked off. Something bad is going on and we need to figure it out. So keep the faith, but question everything. Thanks a lot. Have an awesome day.